can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host right here in front of me, Eric Wilson. And today,
behind you,
right near me, Eric Wilson. And today we're going to be talking about Igor Shesterkin, everybody's favorite player, almost, arguably probably the best player on the New York Rangers. And he really proved that last season, winning the Vezina Trophy, having a historic season in a year where scoring around the league reached a historic high. And he had just such an elite season. So we're going to kind of reflect on this past 2021 and 22 season for Igor Shesterkin, while also taking a look ahead to the potential of his 2022 to 23 season and talking about how he is the favorite right now to win the Vezina Trophy again and whether or not we think that he could repeat and win it 2 seasons in a row. But before we really dive into Igor Shesterkin and really the whole goalie situation for the Rangers in general, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. And, you said he's probably the best player on the Rangers. He's definitely the best player on the Rangers, probably the number one goalie in the entire world right now. Last season, he put up numbers that were completely, never seen before. So I think he's making his case for one of the best goalies of all time.
I believe so. 26 years old, monster season, 36, 13-4 record, leading the league in both goals on average allowed, GAA 2.07, and save percentage 0.935. That's just an incredible number right there, 0.935.
It was on a historic season.
Yeah, for real. He made 53 appearances. Probably would have played a bit more if not for a midseason groin injury. Looking ahead to this season, he's likely to play in probably around 60 games. He's going to start this year. Of course, the Rangers did upgrade their backup goalie position, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in this episode. Yaroslav Halak stepping in as the backup goalie, just an old man to just bring that locker room presence and really just bring some stability at that backup spot. But, Eric, just speak a little bit more about this historic season from Igor Shesterkin and why you appreciate it so much.
Goaltending is one of my favorite positions. I play hockey, but I play on the wing. But, you always got to respect goaltending. I think a hockey goalie is one of the hardest things you can do in the entire sports world. And, growing up watching the Rangers, I always had Henrik Lundqvist in front of me. And, he was one of the greatest goalies of all time. And then after Lundqvist was traded away, it's kind of just, I was like, damn, should have appreciated him more. So now that Igor is here and he's just carrying us so hard, it's it's incredible. And, the Rangers, we always knew they would be a good team last season. But if Igor didn't play the way that he played, there's no way we would have made it as far as we did. So it's just shout out Igor.
Yeah, we have to be appreciative as Rangers fans to have seen so many great goalies in the last really recent memory for the Rangers. The recent history for the Rangers has featured a lot of great goalie play. But when you're taking a look at Igor Shesterkin, as you mentioned, carrying, right? There were some games in that postseason that Igor Shesterkin carried the team. The defense at times was really, really bad in the postseason. There was a couple games where we just had some really bad performances out there, whether it was from Trouba or Fox. But Shesterkin was the lone hero, in some of those games, and he was really the constant throughout the postseason. And he was that way a lot during the regular season as well. The Rangers had a very solid team from front to back, but Igor Shesterkin really stood out in almost every single game. He didn't really have any bad games. There's one in the postseason. I'm forgetting which one it was, but there was a game where I know he was a little off. But
yeah, I think it was first round early, getting into the swing of things.
Right, and it was okay, so he had one bad performance, but he made up for it, more than made up for it with some of those performances, particularly in the beginning of the series against the Lightning, when we were all saying Igor's better.
Yeah, and I'm my mentality is you can never blame a goaltender for losing a game. You can maybe say 1 or 2 goals were on them, but the goalie, they do everything for you. If you say that the goalie cost you a game, that's the wrong way to look at it. You got to be able to depend on your forwards and defense as well if you're off your game one time.
Yeah, and like I said, there were way more games where the defenders and forwards were off for Igor Shesterkin. Igor Shesterkin, like I said, just constant MVP back there for the Rangers. But again, we kind of dove into his stats, so let's talk about where he ranks up against other goalies in the NHL, and kind of talking about why we think that he should win the Vezina again, or why we think he will win the Vezina again. He is the favorite. If you're talking about Vegas odds and everything, right? He's a clear-cut favorite with plus 250, Vasilevsky at plus 500. So, that's really the other competitor here. So we might as well dive into Vasilevsky right here. Eric, I don't know if you have any stats pulled up, but you could really just speak on the talent of Vasilevsky and why he might be able to take over Igor as a Vezina Trophy winner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any exact numbers up right now, but I do personally believe that currently Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in the NHL. The only person who I think comes close, even close to this level of play, would be Vasilevsky. And I think a lot of people say that Vasilevsky is better than Shesterkin just because he's been doing it for a little longer. He has 2 cups, 2 rings. So, like, that helps as well. But I do think Igor does have what it takes to win. We're going to see Igor play really well again. I don't know if he'll be able to reach the numbers that we saw last season, but we should expect Igor to play better than normal this upcoming season as well. I think it's just like between Igor and Vasilevsky, who plays harder, who plays more games, but I don't think anyone comes close to those two.
Yeah, I think really games played is a major factor here because if you take a look at Vasilevsky's career history, he did play 63 games in the 2021-22 season, and his save percentage was a .916. Igor, like I said, played in 53 with a .935 save percentage, which again, just that number is like mind-blowing. But if you really look at the history of Vasilevsky's career, he's just been around. First of all, he's led the league in wins for the last 5 years, which is just, I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning we all know how good they are. But you just take a look at his stats. I mean, he's consistently 9.2 or 0.92, 0.925, 0.925, and then I mean, .916 this past season was actually kind of low for Vasilevsky, which is pretty interesting.
And that's like still a good number too.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's bad for him is it's incredible.
Yeah, and he won the Vezina back in 2018-19 season. He came in second place in 2020-21, fifth place this past season. So, I mean, when you're taking a look at Vasilevsky, he's got the wins every single year because the Lightning are so freaking good. But if you look at Igor Shesterkin's short NHL career with the Rangers, he's been playing for 3 seasons. First season only played in 12 games. Second season played in 35 and had a .916. But again, he really exploded onto the scene with a .935 save percentage with the Rangers this past season.
Yeah, and like that's something like we knew would happen. I mean, like as you guys know, watching this, I don't pay attention too closely to our prospects other than like the bigger names. Shesterkin was one of those big names that I was watching for years. Everyone knew he was going to come into the league and just be a stud. We just had to wait for the day that he came over to the NHL. And right away, he started playing phenomenally, had a really great breakout season last season. And there's no reason to expect those stats to decline. Like I said, I don't think he'll repeat the exact numbers that he had this season, but he's still going to be an incredible goaltender. I would pretty much say it's almost a guarantee that he'll become a Vezina finalist again this season unless something horrible happens. But I really think that he is the favorite to win.
Yeah, and again, he got 29 out of 32 first place votes this past season. So, I mean, pretty much everyone just was in agreement. Like, Igor was the guy, Shesty was the guy. But let's talk about a little bit of maybe competition. I wouldn't really call it competition, but of course, Igor is going to refer to it as competition because he's a good sport. But Yaroslav Halak being signed to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract in free agency this offseason. I know when that signing happened, we discussed it back on the channel. Even before the signing happened, we discussed Yaroslav Halak and identified him as a really great potential backup goalie for the Rangers. But they did end up signing him. He's 37 years old. He had a .472 record with a .903 save percentage and a 2.94 goals average allowed in a limited role with the Canucks last season. But if you take a look really at Yaroslav Halak, the past 2 years, playing less than 20 games, you're probably going to see the same thing this season. I doubt he reaches 20 games considering Igor Shesterkin, having his ability. You want him on the ice as frequently as possible. And unless he gets injured, I know he had the groin injury this past season, but still played in 53 games. But with Yaroslav Halak, you're probably seeing him 20 or less times this season. And again, he's serviceable. He can give you something decent. The 2.94 goals average allowed. I mean, the previous season, it was 2.53. But really for the last 3 years, last 2 years, he's been around .905 or less. So, it is a significant drop off in talent when you're talking about a guy like Igor Shesterkin and 38-year-old Yaroslav Halak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like that's kind of just what you need from a backup goaltender. Like a .903 last season, like it's not horrible. I mean, like you said, he's going to play 20 or less games. I'm leaning more towards the less. I think we're definitely going to want Igor out there as much as possible. you're really only going to see Halak play when we're playing like against like a bottom 5 team and just Igor needs some rest, or it's like a doubleheader back-to-back days playing games where Igor will start one, Halak will start the other. But like I said, like for most of the season, we're going to see Igor. Halak is just going to do his job and just hopefully keep us in it when playing against like bottom half of the league teams.
Right, and that's exactly what I said. Like Yaroslav Halak is serviceable. He's a serviceable guy that can go in there and start games, but primarily the way that Igor Shesterkin is looking at it, and I'll go ahead with a quote from Igor about it, is this is just decent competition in practice for him. So, quote, competition with any goalkeeper should spur you on because without it, there is no professional growth, Shesterkin said this summer. Now our team has signed Yaroslav Halak. I am sure that the competition will also be serious. Plus, you can learn something from him as he is a very experienced goalkeeper. And I wished Georgiev only good luck, which is, I think, a really good quote there. Not only talking about, the competition, which again is like a faux competition because there's no competing with Igor, but really talking about the mentor aspect from Yaroslav Halak. I think that's something to appreciate because Yaroslav Halak, when you dive into his career history, he's had some historic moments in the playoffs and he's had some really great standout performances in his really, really long career. Again, he's been in the league since 2006. So Yaroslav Halak has a whole lot of knowledge to pass down to guys. And again, Shesterkin's only been playing in the NHL with the Rangers for 3 years. So, I mean, you take a look at that. There is probably more for Shesterkin to learn, and I think Yaroslav Halak will be a great mentor for him.
I agree. And, like, that's what I really love about him is he's already, like, in the debate for greatest goaltender in the world right now, and he's still eager to learn more and more. So, like, it's just something that's good to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sky's the limit for Igor Shesterkin. I mean, we really covered all the bases here with the stats and, competitor stats, but I think he is a lock-in favorite for the Vezina Trophy this year. I'm excited because I really think he's going to win it again, go back-to-back, and I think that Igor Shesterkin's career trajectory right now is putting him on path to be one of the greatest goalies of all time.
Yeah, he'll be in the talks for that.
For sure. I agree. But let us know down below in the comment section what you think. Is he going to win the Vezina again? Do you think that he will be in the talks to be, argued as the greatest goalie of all time one day? Let us know down below in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss a video. We got plenty more great content like this and really covering all Rangers news as we ramp up towards training camp right here on the channel. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
He shoots. Rangers.